If you're out.
Paul Joseph Watson has a new video out called The New Sexual Puritans. It sort of matches the Jim Goad sentiment that the social justice warriors have become the new church ladies. And they're all about how we have to behave, what we have to do, which is really all about power. That's what I've always said about political correctness, and feminism is included in that. They don't really want justice. That's why they contradict themselves all the time. The actual things they say are irrelevant. That's why they can have Linda Sarsour contradict their beliefs. They're not about their beliefs. They're about power. When they say to you, say, a person of color, it's not African American anymore, they don't care about blacks. They want you to have to listen to them for the rules of discourse. They want to dictate your vocabulary. And that's why they like Title IX and all this crap about not going to the cops when someone's raped. That's because they want to be the judge. They want the power. So I'm going to talk to Paul about that. But first, let's just briefly look at his video. He covers two main points. One is that they've sort of bastardized sex and have pulled in these true allegations like Harvey Weinstein and just used it to mar the entire gender of male. Now Harvey's my fault. Check it out.
Regular viewers will know I've been the most vehement out of anyone calling for Hollywood and political pedo rings to be exposed. But trial by social media mob outrage isn't justice, and it sets a horrific precedent. Everything is being conflated to the point where making a pass at a woman is placed in the same context as actual sexual assault. As Laura Prendergast writes in The Spectator, women are jumping on the hashtag #MeToo bandwagon so they can smother themselves in attention-seeking victimhood. Not because they're actual victims, but in one case, because a man looked at them. Another storm was whipped up over Adam Sandler touching a woman's knee on a talk show.
So I took my parents, just like you. I took my parents, and
In another instance, an MP was outed after he called a woman attractive, intelligent, and charming. Another case involved Michael Fallon trying to kiss a woman. No, there's a world of difference between looking at someone, complimenting them, trying to kiss them, trying to touch them on the knee, and raping them.
All right. So imagine we applied that kind of scrutiny to Islam, which is what I keep screaming on this show. Take the way you treat me or Paul or Alex Jones or any other right-winger and just apply a modicum of that rigor to Islam, and you'll be drowning in examples. Do you think my tie is homophobic? All right, why don't you go into a mosque and ask them all what's happening to gays? They're in danger is what's happening to gays to most in the mosque. But check out, so this is the point Paul makes. He says, okay, so we're all sexist, we're all evil. All right, I assume you'll be applying the same kind of standards to these new refugees?
What pisses me off the most is that these same feminists now hijacking this scandal to legitimize their crusade against straight white men have for years now ignored the fact that we're importing a real rape culture in the form of mass Islamic immigration, a policy that has resulted in women being molested en masse on numerous different occasions.
Cologne, Germany, where large crowds of what police describe as Arab men began sexually assaulting terrified young women.
Germans will not acknowledge this.
Her and her female friends, touching them everywhere.
Sex attacks by migrants against women in multiple European countries are skyrocketing. What did feminists have to say about that? Nothing. In Cologne, feminists responded to the mass molestation of women by migrants on New Year's Eve 2015 by visiting the local migrant centre and handing out roses.
Okay, we'll talk to Paul about that exactly, and we've got him on the show. But I want to be clear here that we have to stop conflating. Sex is a very bizarre thing. It's a very ethereal, magical, spiritual place to be, and you don't want to start meddling it. You don't want with it. You don't want the government in your bedroom. That's why we have the law. So there's bad sex. There is rape with a ski mask and a knife. That's the rape that you're trivializing, by the way, when you call everything else rape. There's also the disgusting pig like Harvey Weinstein masturbating into a plant where Lawrence Savon can't get past him and has to watch it. That's the bad kind. Now there's the not bad. And we have the normal manly behavior like putting your hand on someone's knee and saying, look, I think that you should blah, blah, blah. There's the consensual sex, which I got in shit with on New York Post today. And Steven Seagal is in trouble for wanting to perform cunnilingus in 1991. And then there's just the straight up liars, the framers, like Jamie Peck. She says, and now my wife was saying the other day, she goes, well, why would someone lie? Why would they want to go through that? And I go, because it's good for your career. Jamie Peck went to Terry Richardson to get nude photographs done. She went at least 12 times. And New York Magazine, by the way, said to her, they go, we did our research. You said you were just there once. You were there 12 times. I can see 12 different hairdos. And she went, her identity is now Terry Richardson. She built a career being a Terry Richardson victim, and she won't shut up about it. Look at her in 2014. She's talking about, she's just refurbishing the old story about Terry. And then again in 2017, here we go. What took you so long? I'm the Terry Richardson gal. I'm the Terry Richardson gal. And again, the story with Terry is, I wanted to become a model, and you said you have to have sex with me so I could become a model. No one looks up these girls. This is what Jamie Peck looks like. Can Terry Richardson make her a model? Is he going to put her on the front of Vogue? He can't do that. No one can do that. You can't screw your way into Vogue. You can't screw your way into the MLB. It's a meritocracy, one of the few that's left. Anyway, let's talk to Paul about all this. Your mama don't dance and your daddy don't rock and roll. How we doing, Paul?
Good to be here, Gavin.
How's life? You're killing it.
It's not too bad. I've been trying to spend more time on YouTube recently, spend more time on scripting videos especially, and less time on Twitter, which is very addictive, but I'm trying to get away from Twitter a little bit. So I put this video up last night because I thought it was quite apropos with what's going on with the whole sexual abuse scandal fallout, because it seems to be being conflated by the media and by the left. I'll give you an example. The last thing I saw on Twitter last night was a headline out of Fox News. Steven Seagal accused of telling actress to sit on his face in 1991. So they're talking about, this was a conversation over the phone, Gavin. It's like he didn't even say it to her face. She said no. That was the end of it. Whatever else Steven Seagal may have done, it's like the world will keep turning despite this apocalyptic bombshell from 26 years ago. And that's what I talked about in the video that I put up last night, the new sexual Puritans. So the process that we're seeing, they're conflating all these like vague allegations, men clumsily approaching women being rebuffed, and then taking it and conflating it with actual sexual assault of the Harvey Weinstein variety. So you've seen all these top feminists over the past couple of weeks, Lindy West being given a platform by the New York Times, Helen Rosner, Kate Harding, Matt McGorry, the actor on CNN, basically saying, oh, look, this proves what we claimed all along, that all men are misogynists, all men are perverts. Look what's happened, we've been proven right. So they're taking it, twisting it, and hijacking it to try and resurrect third wave feminism, trying to resurrect this misandric belief that all men are perverts, again, to fulfill their own agenda, which is, if you read the articles, the only way you can atone, Gavin, for being a misogynist and a sexist is to adopt all our far left political beliefs. Well, isn't that a coincidence?
Yeah, well, it's ultimately about power, right? It's about telling you how to have sex, what you can and can't do. And I think that's why they embrace Islam, because the jihadists are saboteurs. So they're going to burn your house down, metaphorically and maybe literally. And then once they've sabotaged culture, then I can get in there and I can dictate everything, including how courtship works, how all men behave, what men say.
No, I mean, they make a list. There's a big Medium article which went viral by Helen Rosner, and she lists it. She says, right, now you have to support Black Lives Matter. You have to stop watching non-ethical porn. You have to stop using the term social justice warrior and feminazi. You have to support abortion. You have to be quiet as men. Otherwise, you're on the same team as all these evil sexual abusers. So it's completely transparent what they're doing. It's like the professor with the New York Times op-ed yesterday, should I let my kid be friends with white people? You read his article and it's like, yeah, you should apologize for being white. And by the way, that's not enough. You also have to adopt all my far left political beliefs. So it always comes back to that over and over. So it's a simple power play, like you said. It's so transparent what they're trying to do with this.
Well, his wife is white, by the way, that guy.
Yeah, so half of his friends are white as well.
Yeah, he's clearly friends with whites. Well, every time you argue with feminists about this, they always say the same thing about all the fake allegations. And again, it's becoming a challenge here to separate all the stories because we sound like we're rape apologists here. Yes, rape is bad. That's why we have the cops. Go to the cops. Even sexual assault, go to the cops. Anything untowards and it's illegal, go to the cops. Otherwise, I don't know, you didn't like the way someone spoke or you felt uncomfortable. If it's not illegal, get over it. You know, we all have. But the one thing these women keep saying is, why would they lie? Why would they exaggerate? Why would they want to put themselves through that? And I say, because I can give you a bunch of examples like Jamie Peck, who built her career on criticizing Terry Richardson, or Beth Sterling, who built her career pretending that her ex-boyfriend Kill Hartman raped her. There's a real currency in being a victim here. That's their motive to lie.
And that's exactly what the feminists are telling them to do. You know, feminism is not about equality anymore. It's about smothering yourself in victimhood. We had the whole college rape culture myth that's been completely debunked. That was totally exaggerated out of all proportion. Innocent people were smeared. And again, this is a continuation of that. You talked about rape culture. Kate Harding, who is one of these feminists saying, oh, this proves we were right to hate all men all along, doesn't it? She wrote a book called The Alarming Rise of Rape Culture. Now, how many of these feminists have said anything, Gavin, about the actual rape culture that the West has been importing for the past 2 years in the form of mass Islamic immigration? Absolutely nothing. In Cologne, when they had the mass molestation, they went to the local migrant centre, the feminist group did, and handed out roses. That was their response to the molestation of 2,000 women in Cologne. Now what we're seeing in the UK especially, they're regressing us back, these sex-negative feminists on the same page as Islamists, to this modesty culture where now we have a discussion of segregated trains. We have bikini ads being banned by Sadiq Khan in London. We've got catwalk shows based around modesty culture becoming more and more popular. So again, you know, they're becoming the new Puritans. They're actually regressing women's rights, women's lib, the sexual revolution, back to something akin to what the actual Islamists want, which is not very progressive, is it?
No, and it's also proof that this has nothing to do with feminism and everything to do with power. They are sitting there saying, I'm a feminist, and then they get the head of the Women's March to be Linda Sarsour, who wants women to be second-class citizens. Isn't that just a bona fide piece of evidence that you don't care about what you're saying? You're clearly contradicting yourself on a daily basis, so your real objective must be, I want to take over.
Exactly. It boils down to that every time. Linda Sarsour, who talks about, what was it like, removing women's vaginas. I mean, that was one of her things aimed at Ayaan Hirsi Ali. Absolutely despicable woman. You've also got male feminists, and Matt McGorry came out on CNN and said, yeah, we're all complicit. All men are complicit in this. We need to take the blame. But then the actual male feminists, and you've seen this, Gavin, they come out and they're exposed as actual abusers of women. People like Sam Chris Myers was the other one, the British writer, having excoriated us for years about how misogynistic we are, but because we put out YouTube videos, they turn out to be actual sexual abusers of women, overcompensating for that obvious deficiency in their own personality. So that's what really peeved me about this.
Yeah, Louis C.K. was so sanctimonious, saying everything bad about women, everything bad in a woman's life comes from a man. Or Rob Reiner, I think we're about to see tons of stuff on him. Meathead from Archie Bunker's Place, always telling us how horrible we are. I'm sure it's just projection. I'm sure the vast majority of these times they criticize us, it's because they are projecting. Like, look at the way they say, we want to commit literal genocide. It's such a weird thing to say. And then you go, wait a minute, you're a socialist, you're a Stalinist. You've committed literal genocide with your abortions, with Down syndrome. I think you do want to commit literal genocide. That's why it's in your vocabulary. It's in your mind, you pig.
It's total projection. I mean, and this whole anti-white thing now is it's virulently out of control on Twitter. It's every single day the demeaning of white people. That's the new racism, the last form of acceptable racism. Socially acceptable racism is racism against white people. The other thing with the sexual abuse scandal is it's all allegation and social media mob outrage, and that's like all the proof they need now. So now in the UK, you had a Welsh politician called Carl Sargent who was accused of these vague allegations of sexual assault. They weren't even named. He killed himself.
Yeah.
His family came out and said he committed suicide because he couldn't respond to these allegations properly. So it's now actually driving people to kill themselves because of this witch hunt mentality that we're now seeing.
And even after the suicide, you'll see people saying, well, doesn't that show he's guilty? Doesn't that prove that he has some guilt there? No, there's some people that aren't strong. Like Paul Nungesser at Columbia, he sued the school after Mattress Girl ruined his life. He's strong. But this guy who killed himself, or I think Cale Hartman, a lot of guys just go, I can't stand this stigma. And by the way, you've got to be pretty tough to stand up to this. Cale was just at a comedy club a year after this fake allegation, and he's sitting in the audience of an improv place, and the owner leans over and goes, yeah, you're going to have to leave. No real proof, nothing, just rumors. And a lot of these guys can't handle it. They collapse.
And obviously that's the thing with Kevin Spacey and Weinstein. I mean, they admit a lot of it. If you're going to admit it or there's evidence for it, then fair enough. But accusation alone, it's like all this Roy Moore stuff. Yes, if that's what happened, then he deserves the full punishment of the law. But we can't just create a system with complete injustice where if enough people are outraged on Twitter, then it must be true, because that leads to a horrible situation. And we're coming from a perspective. I've made videos calling out Hollywood paedophile rings. I made videos calling out political paedophile rings, calling out the actual rape culture that we're importing. So we're coming from a position where we've talked about this at length, but now it's all being conflated. They're all hijacking it to resurrect third wave feminism because it's been discredited.
Well, again, I'm sorry to keep harping on it, but power, power, power. Like the Title IX thing in schools, kangaroo courts. So they say, Mattress Girl goes, I got raped. We go, no problem. We've been working on this since the Magna Carta. Go to the cops. We'll get the evidence. We'll get the camera footage. Don't worry. We're going to help you. And she goes, no, I don't want to do it that way. I feel unsafe, she said. Now, I know New York cops who said they saw her texting him afterwards flirtatiously. So they said, you're going to get in big trouble. So she went, nah, I don't like that way. I want to have my own court at Columbia, where the accused doesn't get to even know who's accusing him or when the date of the accusation was. So now they have their own courts, their own Title IX, their own kangaroo court, and they can exercise. They're the law now. They're the police. They're the judge and jury and the executioner. It's downright fascist is what it is.
And it's obviously partisan. Like Hillary Clinton constantly during the campaign said, women need to be believed when they make the accusation. Apart from if Bill Clinton raped them, then we'll not talk about that. But women only need to believe if the target of their accusation is politically on the right. Okay. And, the right does that to some extent too, but it's mainly on the left, especially with Hillary. And you get people's lives are being absolutely ruined by this.
Right.
When they come out and say, no, I didn't do this still, well, enough people are outraged, forget it. Delete your account, your career's ruined, and these people are even being driven to suicide now. So that's the problem with it. It's this huge witch hunt that we're seeing over the past couple of weeks with this.
Okay, last point. The mentality is that men are rapists. They've taken, most rapists are male, vast majority, but they've taken that to be all men are rapists. And I remember seeing Karen Strawn say, back before we even really had laws, back when Christianity was being hammered out, they were talking about, we want to punish men for beating their wives, but when we put him in jail, he's no longer making money, and we end up punishing the woman. So what about this? What about we take the guy who beats his wife, and we publicly whip him in the court square, and then send him back to work? So he gets punished, and she gets the money. So my point here is that men have been fighting these rapists and dealing with this problem since the beginning of civilization. Yes, a lot of the bad guys are men. All the good guys are men too.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point I make in my video, this collectivist mindset. Some women throw themselves at powerful men, okay? Let's not deny that that's a fact. Power is an aphrodisiac. Some women sleep their way to the top. Also, some men, notice the stress on some, abuse their power and then think, oh, I can have any woman, which is what leads them into trouble with this sex assault stuff. So there's fault on both sides. And as you said, men are heroes, men are villains. But we can't conflate it all and demonize an entire gender just because that suits our political agenda. And that's what feminists are trying to do. I mean, it all spills out of the Trump grab her by the pussy tape. Right. Obviously, he was talking about women who throw themselves at famous, powerful men. That doesn't mean that all women do that, and that doesn't mean that that's a good thing, and some men do abuse that. So we have to see it from both perspectives and not lump everybody in with these villains, with these sexual abusers. That's all that I'm saying in the video. And now they're trying to exploit it to push this idea, you can only atone by adopting our political beliefs. It's all about power, as he said.
Yeah, they let you do it. Well, Paul, it's a great video, The New Sexual Puritans. And I think videos like this, I know you constantly get hammered and we all get attacked on a daily basis, way more than the left. But young millennials, young people see these videos, they look up the references, they double check it, and they go, this guy's right. And I think it's why young people are now leaning farther right, because they're realizing that the left is full of shit.
Well, it's just a reality-based thing, isn't it? I mean, some of these videos, I read books and research for 3 weeks, like all the stuff about architecture. I don't just spew out an opinion, and people can see that in the videos. They can go to the sources. Everything has a screenshot. You can go and Google the study or the headline, and that's why Julian Assange, for example, said that these videos that I'm producing are red-pilling an entire generation of young people. No higher praise than from Julian Assange, who seems to have his finger on the pulse on a lot of things. So you're right. That's why they're paranoid. That's why they're now trying to censor us on YouTube, because I joked that YouTube was a right-wing safe space, and that's when the New York Times sent out the bat signal, and that's when a lot of this censorship started to unroll. So they know we're having a big effect, and they're frightened by it.
Yeah, they won't debate us because they want power, so they just want to silence us, like all fascists. Paul, thanks for coming on the show, and we're gonna we got into your video before. We're gonna do everything we can to promote it. Great stuff.
Thanks a lot, Gavin.
Cheers, Paul.
Cheers.